Let's open this tape measure. If you see your tape measure, two sides, right? It has the inches side and it has the centimeter side. This is usually what the carpenter uses. So if he wants to go for 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, usually you will go like 1 1/4, right? 1 1/2, or 1 1/8, or 1 3/4. If you have the lumber, you did not see this in the hardware yet, no? If you're going to measure this is 2 inches by 2 inches, so they call that 2 by 2. How many centimeters in 1 inch? 2.54, right? But we usually just round it off to 2.5. Okay? So this is inaccurate, but this is for faster estimate. We say 1 inch is 2.5 centimeters. So that means 2 inches is how many centimeters? 5 centimeters. So 5 centimeters in millimeters is 50. You just add 1 0. Okay? So we usually do 50 by 50 mm. But this one, we usually use this for our steel bars. You have to put the unit inches because they might assume you are talking about centimeters or millimeters. How about tiles? When we say 60 by 60, what's that? Inches? Centimeters, right? And for actual construction. So usually carpentry, we are using inches. It's always better to have the millimeter or the centimeter. So for example, you're making cabinet doors. Now this is a cabinet. There's a shelf. And maybe this is an awning door. Okay? So when you're putting your dimension, you're relying on layout, right? To put the dimension of 3 of them. Let's say this is 60 centimeters. So let's say this is 600 millimeters. But then when you went to your SketchUp model, you didn't model it properly or the layout is not done properly. So this becomes like 597, no? And this one became 612. It's very hard for the carpenter because he has to get with a tape measure this one and then look for the exact 597. Ganun lang in real life, it's very small, the difference of 596 and 597. That's why I'm telling you to round it off to the most logical answer. You can just do 600, 600, 600. Especially when you are laying it out, because it's not yet existing. It's still proposed. That's why new construction is a lot easier. Because if we have an existing wall, and you try to do this, magkakamali. Hindi magkakasya yung pagragadi niya. Diba? That's why you can round it off to the nearest either fifth or 0. So example, talagang di kasya to, pag 600, you make this 595, and then you can transfer the rest here, 610 or 615. But if you really think that it needs to be measured in actual, like masyadong delikado pag rinound off mo pababa or pataas, you do it like this. This is the total length, L, okay? And then you put L over 3. Okay? And then put there a note, verify in actual. So there are different kinds of drafting. That's why you need to use your label. That's why if your drawing is this thick, usually line weights are the borders of the drawing, around, outline. Then your dimensions should not be very thick. Should be just light. So they won't confuse this dimension line as another door. Diba? You can put there H for height. So in drawing, whatever is thicker is more important, like your walls. So for example, you're making elevations. Let's say you have a door elevation like this. And then you're drawing the jambs. Okay? You have to make the outer one thicker. That's why it's called outline. But the problem is, in AutoCAD or in SketchUp, sometimes because of the line weight, they cannot find the dimension line kung saan siya nakatutok. Minsan kasi they will think nasa gitna. That's why you need to make it very clear where it is. Yan. And then when you make your labels, you just make it thin. You can either use a dot or an arrow. Let's say you used a dot here. You put here 2 inches wooden jamb or hamba. Then when you put the next label, other people, they just do like this and then do like that, and then it's all over the place. So what you can do, you can choose a place to align, imaginary alignment like this one. Then extend your out label and then put here another one. 2100 millimeter by 900 millimeter PVC door, for example. Okay? It's a lot neater. That's why you see notebook outlines that this is meant for the drawing and this is meant for the label. But in case your page does not have enough space, then that's when you can make it nearer. For example, this is a doorknob. If I do this, it's too near this one. If I make the label like that, pangit naman tignan. So I can either like go here and do that and write the label here, or I can go to the other side, or I can go down, or I can just go near. Yeah? Door knob. But for me, I prefer that everything is aligned in the text box so that the carpenter will not get confused. Minsan kasi nag-overlap yung mga linya natin, yung dimension line saka yung annotation line. So sometimes dinadaya ko. Sometimes I make my dimension lines a little bit gray instead of making it thinner. Kasi ang line weight, makikita lang yan pag na-plot na sa PDF. Pero while you're drawing, mahirap tignan yung line weight. Mas lalo pag 0.01 lang and 0.02, it's very hard to see the line weights, right? Yung iba ganun ka nipis, yung iba ganun ka thick, pero hindi masyado halata yung difference. That's why sometimes dinadaya ko na ito, kung pang dimension, I make it a little bit grayish. Because now they accept colored. Dati, blueprint lang. Hindi talaga kita. So that's what you do. You make sure of your line weights and then make it intended for actual construction. So unlike in school where the one checking is your instructor na, wow, ang ganda nito, wow, ang husay. In actual construction is, maawatan ba? Yun lang. So kung hindi nila naintindihan, palpak yung drafting. So what's drafting used for? It's used for getting the size, getting the label, getting the material, getting the cost, and buying in the hardware. So if I see your drawing and I don't know what that is, kunwari linagay mo lang tile, and then I go to the hardware, ma'am, pabili nga po ng tile. Anong klaseng tile? Basta tile. Anong sukat? Yung nakalagay sa drawing, tile. Anong brand? Basta tile. Diba? It's very hard. It's like when you're buying in the palengke. Pag sinulat ko dito, chicken. And then I go to the palengke, anong klaseng chicken? Magde-decide pa ako doon, on the spot. Tingin nga tayo. That's canvassing. But that will take a lot of time. Pag purchasing na, hindi na pwede mag-canvas. Pag purchasing na, bibili ka na. You have to spend the money because workers are waiting. Pag walang materyales, magre-reklamo sila. Tenga yung trabaho. So, that's why canvassing is done during the design stage also, or after. So, if we put there, chicken, 1/2 kilo, magnolia, mas magandang intindihin. Mas madali, di ba? It's the same thing with your drawing. You are just making a recipe for the workers. Ganun lang yun. So, Actually, masaya siya pag nakita mo nang ginagawa na yung actual. Right now, hindi niyo pa ma-feel kasi nasa computer lang. That's why I said, you go in canvas, in actual. Kasi, paano niyo malalaman yung specs or yung hardware pag hindi kayo nag-canvas? Okay, so all of those are due tomorrow, Wednesday. And then I will give the next task. Yung physical task naman, yung parang painting,